Then from this, you get people pandering to them. The politicians, people like Rashida Tlaib, step up and they say something like, I'm going to say something mindless and insane and hope that someone votes for me because of it. And then the whole system just decays.
What is this? I'm looking at this Tlaib quote that police should be abolished because this is from Daily Mail. Because force is intentionally racist. This is the quote, intentionally racist and cannot be reformed. Force is intentionally racist and cannot be reformed.
All police?
Force is like a scientific phrase. It's not, it's a mechanical function.
Well, so Rashida Tlaib, in response to all of this, tweeted, "It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Dante Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed." Okay.
Whoa.
Let's take 2 seconds here. First, it was initially reported that this guy, Dante Wright, was wanted on a misdemeanor gun charge. And apparently he got stopped. They found out he had a gun. He fled. Now, when I heard that, I was like, sounds to me like his only crime was the non-crime of enjoying his Second Amendment rights. If that's the case, then this is absolutely wrong. However, even if it was, in my opinion, an unjustified and unconstitutional act, you don't resist the police. When they come to arrest you, you have the privilege of a trial to defend yourself and actually fight for others in the process, because the precedent set by your cases could help others in the future. Instead, he fought with the cops. He dove into the car. They knew he was on a weapons charge. He had a Ruger 45. He ended up getting shot and killed, and it's a tragic story. I wish it didn't happen, but come on. The cops need to be able to make arrests. The cops don't know who this guy is or what his story is. They don't know if he's a good guy, a bad guy. All they know is we got a warrant. But now it turns out it was an aggravated robbery charge. So this warrant was actually like, this guy strangled a woman and demanded $800 from her at gunpoint. Okay, hold on a minute.
It's a little different.
Yeah, he probably should be arrested for that. And he resisted and tried running away. We have the story actually from the New York Post. They say Dante Wright had an open warrant related to an armed robbery against him when he was shot dead Sunday. Wright, 20, and another man had been charged with first-degree attempted aggravated robbery in December 2019 for allegedly trying to steal $820 from a woman at gunpoint, according to Hennepin County District Court documents. The pair had crashed the victim's home in the city of Osseo after attending a party there, then demanded money the next morning while flashing a gun, authorities said in court papers. "Give me the effing money. I'm not playing around," Wright told the woman, according to prosecutors. The victim refused and began screaming for both men to leave, records show. "Give me the money and we will leave," Wright allegedly told her. "Give me the money and we will go." The two men eventually left the home without any dough, according to documents. Wright was later arrested in the case and released on $100,000 bail, but he violated his bail conditions in July when he failed to stay in touch with his court monitor, the paper said. According to the Daily Mail, he was also in possession of a gun at some point after his arrest for the robbery, which was also in violation of the condition of his bail release. So apparently that case was actually derivative of the fact that he tried shaking someone. He tried an armed robbery. Now, Rashida Tlaib, here's what you got to think about what she's saying now in this context. The sheer absurdity of this. It wasn't an accident. It clearly was an accident. I tweeted the cop should go to jail because two things. You're responsible for what comes out of your gun. This was a negligent shooting.
Right.
It wasn't an accident. She was reaching for a weapon. She was intending to cause harm. She wasn't intending to kill him. Not murder, but negligence. Also, these police in the area need to, how do they not realize the ramifications and the political consequences of what they're doing, defending what's going on right now? If they genuinely believe Chauvin was just doing his job and these cops are being unjustly prosecuted, morale is low, shouldn't they stand up for themselves? So I have very little empathy, if any, for people who are like, I know they're going to throw someone under the bus, but I'm going to say nothing and then I'll be fine. Even after saying that, I still recognize the shooting was not intentional. I still recognize this guy broke the law and was resisting. I still recognize the altercation could have been avoided. It was the actions of the individual being pulled over. Cops got to do their job. And Rashida Tlaib is saying no more policing. Okay. No more policing.
Right. And you know, I think as well that the circumstances that you identify there certainly will be used at the trial, right? If they try and upcharge beyond negligent manslaughter, right? Because that speaks to the circumstances that police officers face them in, right? When the dispatcher says, go to this call, it's going to be, proceed with caution, armed, dangerous, reasonable suspicion to believe that, actually probable cause in this case, that this person's capable of violence. And the officer would say, okay, I have fear, that's why I didn't think properly. But I do think the broader point in terms of the political discourse, as you suggest, has been heavily weighted. I guess I do think there is, again, this sort of silent majority, yes, needs to be more visible, both at a political level and at a populist level. But again, it's the silent Trump voter again, right? That most people think this is totally choose profanity, profanity of choice. Yeah. It is interesting though that we don't hold Rashida Tlaib in the same kind of disdain that we would if Donald Trump, some of the things that President Trump has tweeted, for example. This is kind of UFO, outer space stuff. Except UFOs are actually serious.
I will say, in terms of saying the cop should be arrested, my bigger issue that infuriates me with everything is that there are people who will privately say to you, "I'm so upset with what's going on." And then you're like, all right, will you stand up with me? Oh, no, heavens, no, I won't take any risk. It's like, I've always respected the idea that, back in the day in these wars, the leader would be on a horse and he would charge in with his men and lead them into battle. Now you've got people who are like, yes, look at all these problems. Oh, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to get canceled. You do it for me. So when I see these cops sitting back while other cops are being demonized and villainized, thinking like, meh, what do I care? I won't speak up. I won't stand up. I won't resign. I won't protest this. I'm like, okay, if you won't defend others who have been put in these positions, I'm not going to defend you. I think this lady should go to prison. I think I hope the system comes for her for all it's worth. Chauvin, as we're now learning, it's not so clear cut exactly what happened and why Floyd lost his life. And they're trying to charge him with second-degree murder. Now, manslaughter might make sense. There's an argument for there. And in fact, the state may have actually convinced the jury of that. We'll see what happens. The defense is arguing tomorrow and Thursday, and then I think they're off Friday, and then deliberations begin. But murder 2 and 3 are insane. The fact that the system charged him with this in the first place was nuts. He's probably going to get acquitted on that charge. There's probably going to be riots.
Keith Ellison, right?
Right.
Hyper-political.
Exactly.
Looking for his own future aspirations at the expense of the law.
But what bothers me is that there were a lot of good cops who walked when this went down. And they said, if you're going to play this game, I won't be a part of it. And I applaud those cops because those are the good cops. Some of them are probably actually bad people, but they're willing to stand up at least for themselves. And this cop just seems like another one of these people who thinks that as the world is burning down around them, they can say nothing and do nothing and they'll be fine. It won't come for them. I talk about this all the time with like the wokeness, the critical race theory stuff, where people are like, I know it's bad, but as long as I keep my head down, I'll be fine. And no, you won't. If this really is as bad as people think it is, eventually it will come for you and there's no escaping it. Your best chance now is to speak up. Otherwise, there will be no one left to speak up for you. Now she's been involved in this. The political system is dominated by these activists. The city manager got fired for calling for due process. And I'm just like, well, I mean, you knew this was going to happen. Right. You knew it's what they called for last year. You knew they literally voted to abolish the police one town over 10 miles from you. Why should I have sympathy for this? A lot of people I know, a lot of good people I've talked to in the Minnesota and Minneapolis area have straight up said, yeah, we're moving, we're leaving.
Right.
We won't be a part of this. We won't let our tax dollars fund this. And then a bunch of people just shrugged it off and said, oh, whatever. Okay, well, now you get to be Chauvin.
But I do think that, again, this stuff does hit I agree with you in the broad need to identify, to call out that, the cancel culture, the fake wokery, whatever. But at the point of paying taxes, as you suggest, I think a lot of people are like, enough, because especially on these policing matters, it's not simply the matter of taxes. It's taxes for, an exigent interest, right? Protection of self and family. And when you combine those two factors, I do think this is just going to be a developing trend. It's also, I think, at the political level, ultimately why the Rashida Tlaib crowd is going to lose. But ultimate, yeah, sure. I mean, look, President Trump really nearly won, right? And
I do agree with you. I do. That they'll end up losing.
Yeah.
It just, the problem is, it's not going to happen until there's widespread violence and destruction on a scale that we will regret. I'm sure many people are upset about what happened last year with the George Floyd riots. Regret is a hard word to use because it caught everyone off guard. And now we're looking back at it like, okay, how do we stop this? Anger, for the people who rioted and looted. Now we have an option. We have a chance. Are we going to stand up and do something before it's too late? Apparently the answer is no. Obviously, we'll talk about this. People who are watching the show understand what's going on. But too many regular people have been ignoring this. The cops in Brooklyn Center thought they would be allowed to get past the lunatic woke outrage mob. They thought they would be safe. Are you kidding me? Right. Your fellow officers are going down in flames and being sacrificed at the woke altar, and you did nothing. You said nothing. You just said, I'll be fine. Well, now you're not fine. So these cops have a chance. If they all resign today, by tomorrow, the police would be totally funded. They'd have better training. Much of these problems would be solved. They'd be better equipped. They'd be safer. The problem isn't that police have too much funding. It's that they have too little funding. We are asking people, and these activists don't remember this, that these cops are human beings, to go into situations where people want to kill them. We've seen the videos. They're scary videos where someone reaches into their car. We saw the guy in Wisconsin, in Kenosha. When he was going to his car, he grabbed the knife, and the cop shot him. And then they riot in that city. Apparently that cop is back on duty, actually, because I don't think he did anything wrong. Like, someone grabbed a knife. This guy had assaulted a woman. These people don't realize this about these cops, that they're not vicious and depraved murderers. And many of these people are psychologically damaged after being involved in these shootings. I mean, this woman, I really do believe she accidentally shot this guy, Dante. She went, holy S, I just shot him. I don't think she meant to do that. I'm sure she's been crying nonstop,
right.
Like mentally just fractured because of this. So with respect, I'm not trying to be mean. If the police right now said to the people, we have been dealing with riots nonstop for a year. We have begged for your support. And instead, all we have gotten was defunded, insulted, demoralized, abolished, and scapegoated. The city is all yours.
I think the moral way to do it, though, would be to give, a period of notice, 30 days. Because then yes. You can balance. Because
that's actually much better.
Because then at least, when you do it, say, hey, it's not, this is now the political responsibility, right? The crimes that happen in that window of absent policing. But I also think as well, the delusion, right? That anyone who says like Rashida Tlaib, policing, get rid of it, incarceration doesn't work, great. These are not people who have been exposed to criminality, right? Police officers, anyone who knows anyone who's been to prison, I think would come out and say there are a lot of people in there who had really a bad start to life. Could they have been diverted? There are also a lot of people who are really not nice people. Yeah. And when we're talking not nice, we're like, really not nice. And so police officers dealing with that every day. One of the things I found interesting is like, in some ways, British humor is very similar to like American police humor. It's very dark, and I think part of the British humor doesn't sometimes translate in the United States. And I think part of the reason police officers, or a big reason, is that you're just dealing every day with tragic circumstances. You're doing a lot of good, but you're also dealing with really unpleasant people, and that takes a toll.
Did you hear about the cash bail thing in New York, where they want to get rid of it? Or they got rid of it. I'm sorry.
I actually didn't know.
So earlier in the year, like last year, there was this bill where they said basically if you're arrested for a certain nonviolent crime,
misdemeanor at the level,
right. You will be
order released.
Right. So no bail. And here's the challenge, man. I don't like the idea of charging people money to get out of jail to wait, because innocent until proven guilty. It's better that the guilty escape than innocent suffer. All that stuff. Blackstone's formulation. But there was apparently one guy who got arrested several times and kept getting released. And apparently in a quote, he was laughing. He was like, y'all caught me doing it and let me go.
Right.
It's like, we have to. It's the Constitution. But some people are bad people, and we know it.
Right.
And it's tough to deal with these people while maintaining constitutional rights.
There is an interesting issue here as well, that one of the controversies for some is that police that judges are elected here, right, at a local level.
Yeah.
And I do think there can be a cost to that the reflex can be more punitive sometimes for certain crimes, but the benefit is that you can avoid a situation, for example, that exists in much of Europe, certainly in the UK, in Britain, where the cops are arresting people and they've got a rap sheet that is just pages and pages long, and the judges are still sort of 90-day community service centers, and how that not simply the immorality of that in a democratic society. But also how that corrodes the public trust, which the public ultimately in a democracy must be the guardians, right, or must be the masters. How they have no, essentially, the judiciary is separate to the political branch, but there's no input, right? That they just simply see,
Exactly.
and people eventually just like they lose faith.
This is the system. The system is supposed to work because of judges, because a judge can look at a person and say, you're accused of this crime. What say you? And if the person says, Your Honor, I beg of you, I have to work my job and be with my kids. I will be in court. And the judge can be like, okay, let's set some conditions that aren't cash because you can't afford it, where we can ensure you will come to work. How about house arrest, but with a provision for you to go to work?
Right.
Instead, I've seen these videos where the judge is like, your bail is set as $1,000. Your Honor, I watched this video. It was maddening. The guy's like, Your Honor, please, I have to be with my family. I have to work my job. I'll lose my job if I'm in jail. And he goes, I said $1,000, bang. And I'm like, that to me doesn't work. Because now maybe in this instance, the guy actually was a bad dude who was just trying to pull a fast one. But then you have the inverse where you just mentioned in New York, it's like, Your Honor, we arrested this guy. All right. I understand the cashless bail thing, but like, here's his rap sheet. He's been convicted of 7 crimes in the past. Can we at least hold this guy? No, free to go.
Right.
The judges are supposed to be interpreting this better, and I feel like too often we don't get it. But maybe it's because there's no real simple answer. Maybe we're going to learn about the harsh cases and the lax cases. Maybe the reality is, there's good judges in the middle who find that middle ground.
And in all this, right, it's the same thing in San Francisco, right, that they were not arresting, certain things would be treated misdemeanor, stealing from a car, non-violent.
From a store.
Right. And actually that's a much better example. You look at, the kind of woke element, the left, right, and it's much easier to become part of the woke crowd and wave than it is to be like, kind of Larry David out of Curb Your Enthusiasm and be like, like, it's okay for them, right? Because they can go to the apartment building that has a concierge and an underground garage. But that small business owner or that, person who doesn't have, has to park their car on the street, that working class, lower income person, they're the ones who are suffering the most here. It's not the people who are pushing this the most. But again, I just think there is a political opportunity here that we have to believe will be taken advantage of.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.